Good evening, everyone. I am Sergeant Antoine Robinson, and I will be your MC for this evening's event. On behalf of Chief Kazmar, welcome to our annual memorial ceremony honoring our fallen officers. Please stand for the presentation of colors. You may notice among the colors, we post one flag has streamers attached. Each streamer bears the name of one of our fallen officers. Following the posting of the colors, please remain standing for the national anthem performed by Detective Corinne Ruiz and invocation by Officer Jonathan Alameda.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good evening. I invite you to join me in a brief word of prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your care and concern for police officers and their families. I thank you for watching over us this past year and for the protection against fatal events, both seen and unseen. I invite your presence to be with us this evening. We remember all those who have laid down their lives for this community, and thank you that there are those that are willing to sacrifice everything so that others may live in safety. I ask your comfort for those who are still suffering and mourning the loss of their loved one. Surround them with your presence and remind them of your love. I ask for your continued protection for those who are on the battlefield, even tonight, standing watch over this city. I pray for those who would do us harm, that they would turn from their evil ways, but if they refuse, I pray that you would grant to us victory in battle. In your name, amen.
Please be seated. Good evening. Tonight we gather to pay special tribute to our fallen officers. Tonight's not a night of sorrow, but a night of gratitude. There's no greater honor I have as chief, and trust me, this organization and all the people in this uniform that define it give me plenty of reasons to be proud every day. But there's no greater honor that I have as chief of police than to ensure the legacy of our fallen officers live on throughout our agency and throughout our community. 245 officers gave their lives while serving and protecting their communities throughout our country last year. 3 of those were from our own state. There's no doubt in my mind, if it were not for the quick actions of our team members, TFD, and the Banner UMC team in the early morning hours of February 9th, that we would be adding one more of our team members' names to that list. At TPD, we've been working really hard on struggling well. And our job gives us a lot of reasons to struggle, trust me, and tonight's just one great example of that. But as our commitment to our mental health and wellness, at TPD we practice daily gratitude. So if you'll indulge me for a moment. Tonight I'm grateful as the Chief of Police for our team members who have worked tirelessly to make sure that tonight honors the memory of our fallen, but it also celebrates our TPD families who are here with us tonight and live every day with a void in their lives that can never be filled. I'm grateful for everyone in attendance with us tonight, especially our keynote speaker, Dr. Gaither. He plays an amazing role in supporting the Tucson Public Safety Team, and you'll hear more about that tonight. Mayor Romero, thank you for being here. Council Member Nikki Lee, Kevin Dahl, your ongoing support is greatly appreciated by this organization. City leadership, dignitaries, our public safety partners, both at a local, state, and federal level who are here with us tonight. And our community is also here tonight. That's a big deal. Your presence here means more than you know. But most importantly, I'm grateful for the families and friends of our fallen officers who are present with us tonight. We understand time does not heal all wounds. And your presence here with us tonight comes with a significant impact on you. Please know that the service and sacrifice of your loved one mattered. We think about you often, and the memory of your loved one will never be forgotten by this organization or by our community. Present tonight, Officer William Elliott's family, great-granddaughters Christine, Marcia, Cheryl, Muriel, Lori, and great-great-granddaughter Julie. Officer Patrick Hardesty's family, surviving spouse Demetra and granddaughter Lily. And Officer Eric Height's family, surviving spouse Noemi and daughter Samantha. In closing, to our current team members and the larger public safety team present tonight, I couldn't be more proud and humbled to work beside you in our community. You define the nobility of policing and the public safety profession. At this time, I would like to invite Mayor Romero up for brief remarks.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me here to join you as we honor and remember our officers who lost their lives in the line of duty. While we will always honor the sacrifice of our officers, we always want to remember the way they lived their lives. We all understand that the whole family serves, along with our police officers, and our whole community mourns when one is lost. I am grateful for the quick and calm work of the first responders and the medical personnel at Banner UMC who saved Officer Kyle Lawrence when he was hit by a drunk driver earlier this year. We all continue to wish him and his family a quick and complete recovery. I am also committed to the continuing support and supporting the physical and mental needs of our officers. The work of our officers is challenging, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. On any given day, the trauma that police officers may encounter can build up. It is important that we continue to build the support that is needed for our officers to stay well and healthy. Know that this mayor and council will work tirelessly along with our chief for your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. My condolences to the families, friends, and colleagues of our officers that we have lost. My thanks to all who are serving our community currently with all they have to give, and that every day they have to face coming to work and possibly not coming home. So to the families and officers, thank you for your public service to our community. Have a nice evening, and thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you, Chief Kazmar and Mayor Romero. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's ceremony, Dr. Josh Gaither. Dr. Gaither is a professor at the University of Arizona College of Medicine. He completed his medical training at the University of Arizona residency training in emergency medicine at Yale University, and fellowship training in EMS and disaster medicine at the University of Colorado. Dr. Gaither currently practices clinical emergency medicine at Banner University Medical Center here in Tucson and is the medical director for the Tucson Police Department.
Thank you for the kind invitation to speak today. It's truly a privilege to be here and have the opportunity to acknowledge, really celebrate the work that you all do every day. I'm sure you're familiar with the benefits of policing. I could explain all of the benefits of improved safety in our community, reduced crime rates, ease of movement about our community. I would be the lowest expert on the totem pole if I were to give that speech today. I'm a nerdy doctor. I put on my professor hat every day and think about research and that type of stuff. I work as the medical director, right? I do medical stuff. So I'm going to take an approach of the medical director and maybe look at policing from a different perspective, one that you may not have thought about, but I hope you do remember when you leave tonight. It's really the invaluable service that police provide to our community as a medical first responder. Now, you may think about this and think, well, what's a medical first responder? Isn't that an EMT? No, it's not an EMT. It's not that complicated. It's even simpler than that. I'll give you a couple examples, and for the uniformed officers in attendance tonight, you'll know exactly what I mean, right? When there's an event where we need to go in and provide emergency medical care and the scene may not be secure, it's really important that the EMTs, paramedics are able to enter that scene and provide some medical care safely. The police department provides that safety, that assurance that it's okay and easy for us medical professionals to go do our job. I was privileged enough to be able to attend the Rescue Task Force training that was put on by the Tucson Police Department and Tucson Fire Department over the last couple of weeks. I was able to slip in undetected as a member of one of the 4-person engine crews and go through the training with the crews that day. And I'll tell you what that provided me as a medical provider. It provided me with a sense of safety. I was comfortable going out to perform my medical primary duty because of the work our uniformed officers do every day. That's just one example. I've had the unpleasant experience of being involved in multiple shootings. I was in the hospital the day that Gabby Giffords was shot, and involved in several of the other incidents in our community in the past year. And I can tell you from those experiences, it's because of the uniformed personnel that were present on scene that I was able to go and do my primary job, take care of patients, and hopefully make a difference. So you may be thinking, that's okay, we get that. But I would argue that's not the only medical benefit that law enforcement officers provide to our community. As I was preparing, trying to learn a little bit about today's events, I looked at the mission for Tucson Police Department. The mission statement for Tucson Police Department says, Tucson Police Department's mission, thank you, is to protect life, property, prevent crime, and solve problems. Love it. Simple, straightforward. And I suspect it's no coincidence at all that saving lives was the first priority. I brought my kids today. They were excited to be here. My kids would tell you the world sometimes rotates around me. And if the world were to rotate around me and I could maybe make some suggestions to the motto here, I would actually argue strongly that you don't protect lives, you save lives. And this is really important for the families who are here tonight to recognize the true impact our law enforcement first responders have on the community we live in. They don't protect lives, they save lives. And I'm going to give you some really nerdy professor concrete numbers here. Let's talk about cardiac arrest, one of my favorite topics. If someone were to have a heart attack, God forbid here, go unconscious, pass out, law enforcement officer CPR is one of the most effective tools to save lives. In fact, if a law enforcement officer provides CPR before our EMTs and medics get to the scene, that patient is 25% more likely to survive. That's a huge survival benefit. It's even more so with those defibrillators. You may be familiar with AEDs. They're stationed around, you pull them out, you put them on the chest when someone's had a cardiac arrest. If a law enforcement officer has an AED, puts it on a patient, and shocks them prior to the arrival of the medics, that individual has a 40% improvement in their likelihood of surviving that life-ending event. That is incredibly impactful. As I was sitting right behind our officers in the front row here, I also noticed they have a tourniquet right in their back, right? I was a Boy Scout. I learned when I was a Boy Scout, tourniquets are horrible, right? This is a long time ago, tell you how old I am. Tourniquets, originally we were told, oh, they're no good. We learned something from the Gulf Wars. We learned that tourniquets save lives. Stopping the bleeding is critical. In fact, no surprise to anyone in this crowd, the sooner you stop the bleeding, the better your patient outcomes are. We just heard about a great example of that, but let me put the solid numbers on it. When a law enforcement officer takes their tourniquet out and puts it on that bleeding extremity, they increase the chances that that individual will survive by 40%. It's amazing. And these are by law enforcement officers who never got into this role to provide medical care. But the medical care you provide changes lives and saves lives. We're here tonight, though, for a very specific reason. That service that you provide to our communities, that the families have provided to our communities, comes at a steep cost. And we need to acknowledge that and be grateful for that. We've heard about the line of duty deaths, walked by the pictures as we came into the ceremony this evening. That's just a small part of it. Over the last 2 years, COVID has impacted our law enforcement colleagues just like it has our healthcare professionals, paramedics, and firefighters. In addition to COVID, we have families who are left behind who pay the ultimate price. And I would suggest it's even greater than that. We all know that on-the-job injuries are a significant burden on all of us. In fact, a law enforcement officer is 3 times more likely to be injured on the job than any other profession that does similar types of occupations. That's a huge risk. That is a risk our law enforcement community takes on to provide services for the community we live in. You know, as a medical professional, I have a great day every now and then where I get to shake the hand of a cardiac arrest survivor. It's a great experience. It's truly makes it worth getting up and going to work the next day on the worst days, right? One of the really unfortunate things about law enforcement officers is you don't have that connection. You aren't at the hospital to see them walk out the door, right? So I thought I would probably put those numbers that I just shared with you into perspective. So the benefit of law enforcement officer AED use, the defibrillator use, is a 40% improvement in survival. The benefit of me, the doctor in the emergency department, providing resuscitative care, less than 1%. That's the benefit I provide. This is a 40-fold increase in benefit when you provide CPR over waiting for the hospital to do it. How about those tourniquets, right, that are on the back of the belt? They cost $10. Super effective, very cheap. They decrease or they increase survival by 35%. That's a big number. When you walk into the door of the trauma center, it's a really expensive system. I don't even want to put a dollar on it, right? It's an expensive hospital, an expensive building. The benefit of the trauma center to our community is an improvement in survival by 25%. Law enforcement intervention, 35%. Complex hospital, 25%. What you do as officers is incredibly valuable to our community. And indeed, I would say it's not that you're here to protect lives, that you save lives every day. And the families here should be aware of that. Your loved one saved lives, as does every officer that's out on the street every day. So today, as we gather to remember those that have been lost in the line of duty, I also want to recognize their families, as well as all of the officers in attendance and in the field. You put your lives at risk to save the lives of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gaither. We will now have the president of the Tucson Police Officer Association, Officer Mike Gomez, explain the symbolism of the wreaths you see posted here at the front. Following Officer Gomez will be the Vice President of the Fraternal Order of Police, Officer Heather Ma, to discuss the symbolism of the roses that will be placed during the roll call of officers.
Good evening, everyone. Over the next 2 weeks, across the nation, community members and law enforcement alike are paying their respects to the men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice while protecting their communities. Although some of our friends, colleagues, and family members have passed on, we will always hold them in our hearts and in our minds. The shape of the wreath reminds us of the unending bond within law enforcement to support each other and to protect our communities. Like the bond demonstrated by a circle, we promise to never let one another down and never stop fighting for justice. The wreath reminds us that we must never stop defending people's freedoms. We are reminded to continue serving our communities and protecting those who cannot protect themselves. And it reminds us to never stop supporting one another Today we honor our fallen brothers and sisters with our service, our friendship, and our love. May God bless those we remember today, and may God bless each and every one of you.
Red roses have long been associated with representing love. Giving a single red rose symbolizes the giving of our hearts. A single red rose will now be placed on the memorial for each of the members of the Tucson Police Department we have lost in the line of duty. The placement of the rose is a sign of respect and honor of the memory of those that we knew, worked with, and loved, that paid the ultimate price doing the job that they loved and protecting the community they served. Their names are as followed.
Officer William Elliott, end of watch, July 3rd, 1892.
Officer William Katzenstein, end of watch, July 26, 1902.
Officer Robert Cummins, end of watch, September 7th, 1936.
Officer Barry Hendricks, end of watch, October 28, 1974.
Officer James Smith, end of watch, October 28th, 1980.
Officer Jeffrey Ross, end of watch, February 18, 1982.
Officer Patrick Hardesty, end of watch, May 26, 2003.
Officer Eric Height, end of watch, June 2nd, 2008.
May we never have to add another name to this list.
The Tucson Fire Department Pipes and Drums will now play Amazing Grace. We ask that you take this opportunity to reflect on the sacrifices our law enforcement officers make on a daily basis. Today we reflect not only on the ultimate sacrifice of our fallen, but more importantly, on how they lived and the impact they made on their family, their friends, and the Tucson community. The members of the Tucson Police Department stand on the shoulders of giants. Our fallen brothers and sisters and all generations of TPD officers that have served before us. In recognition of our long and storied history, our newest generation of officers carry the sacred duty of guarding our heritage into the future. With that said, tonight we continue the tradition of passing the badge. For the past year, 4 officers representing each patrol division have been wearing the Heritage Badge. The Heritage Badge is a replica of the first badge worn by TPD officers beginning in 1881. These officers represent the best and the brightest of our newest generation of guardians. These badges will now be passed to the next generation of officers.
The heritage of our agency has been built upon 152 years of service to the Tucson community. Part of that heritage is remembering the legacy of our fallen officers. In the spirit of that preservation, we formally entrust our next generation of Tucson police officers, again as the guardians of this tradition.
Operations Division South. Operations Division West. Operations Division Midtown. Operations Division East. You have been selected to represent our heritage with the passing of these badges. Proudly wear and display this badge until next year's memorial, where you will pass it on to the next generation. Ensure that our fallen are not forgotten. Please stand for the rifle salute, which will consist of 3 volleys of gunfire, followed by the playing of taps. Uniformed personnel should stand at attention. Please take precautions if you have small children with you or have a sensitivity to loud sounds. Following the playing of taps, the Tucson Police Air Unit will conduct a flyover. please remain standing while the honor guard retires the ceremonial colors. This concludes our ceremony. On behalf of the Tucson Police Department, I would like to thank you for attending this evening's event honoring our fallen. Have a good night.